we want to understand the Achas Shealti, how everything expressed in the Mizmer till then is all directed towards the Achas Shealti, and what follows in the Mizmer is the expression of the Achas Shealti, which he said in a word, Achas goes in Yechida. So to understand all of this, he's quoting extensively here from the Maamar of the Alter Rebbe, where the Alter Rebbe explains the difference between L'cha Hashem Hagdula. So help me here, friends. We explained at the end. We finished those Beis Taka. So L'cha Hashem Hagdula, and the pasuk V'ligdula say Ein Cheker. And the difference is, one is referring to
Spashtas.
Right, and the other
Atzmos. No?
the Gedula Atzma. The Gedula Atzma bound up with the Etzem, relatively speaking, which is incomparable to the Ispashta. So which is which? So he concludes, V'lachein Ne'emar, at the end of the Ois, L'cha Hashem Hagdula. So that's referring to the Ispashtos, and we say L'cha Hashem Hagdula because this is Tfeila, it's secondary and bottled to you. The pasuk Ligdolosei Ein Cheke says that's referring to his Gedula, not Hagedula bottled to you, but his Gedula, that's Gedula Ha'atzmis, and that is Ein Cheker, unfathomable. We're well into Eis Gimel.
I think the last sentence of Eis Gimel.
Huh?
We stopped at the last sentence of Eis Gimel.
That's right, we got to the end. All right, so Eis Gimel, let's just review it outside, as it were, not in the text. So Eis Gimel is contrasting two psukim. Both talk about Tevunah, his understanding. One says, Ein Cheker l'Tevunah, there's no fathoming. And the other one says, that's a pasuk in Yeshaya, and the pasuk l'Tevunah, Ein Misbar, there's no number, till him. Kuf Mem Zayin. So what's the difference? The Alter Rebbe explains, so help me here. How did he explain the pasuk? It's quoting, not explaining, because he's quoting the pasuk, quoting the Pirush quoted by the Chizkuni from, he says Isa b'Medrash. We just pointed out that we don't have such a Medrash, but it's quoted in the Chizkuni. So what does the Medrash say? How does the Medrash touch the word Shema Yisrael? The whole Ois was that whole Medrash is a pretty long Medrash. But we're talking about the third line of Eis Gimel. Shom Ayin. There is 70. So what's this 70 business? What does he touch? Shema Yisrael means, trace it through.
Yidden are one of the 70 Umayos.
Yidden are one of 70 nations. Go on.
And then the nations are one of 70 species. Humans, I guess, are one of 70 species.
Humans are 1/70th of the number, talking numbers, of the numbers of behemoths in the world. Of behemoths. Behemoths are what? 1/70th of chayas, of wild creatures in the world. Chayas are 1/70th of, no, go on. Of birds. There's 70 times more birds in the world. You wouldn't think that, would you? Than chayas. And then there's the next. It's not finished. It's all Go on.
Birds from Malachim and
There's 70 times more malachim than birds. And finally, there's 70 times more greater number. Talking Pashut numbers, the Medrash Kipshuta, at the simple level of the Medrash, 70 times more neshamas than there are malachim. So how many times 70 is it?
70 times 70 is 4,900.
No, how many times 70 have we multiplied 70, how many times the final number? Seven. End of Medrash. So it comes out that what does he want to bring out? This riboy, which he spoke about earlier.
I just did the numbers. If I'm right, it's 8 trillion.
Yeah, 70 to the power of 7. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a big number. Yeah, that's the intent. Okay. So that's the neshamas, that's the final number, that's the neshamas. But that's neshamas how? As they are l'mayla, before they come into a guf. Chelik alakah. Whereas the neshamas come into the guf, end up being what? The contrast he's bringing out. The contrast between the neshama, the l'mayla, and the neshama in the guf.
They're the 1/70th.
The lowest.
The 1/8 trillionth of all of it, right?
They're the lowest. Yeah, the kids are the lowest. The neshama l'mayla is the highest, greatest number. But the neshama l'mata is the lowest. There's all behemshech to the previous ayah. We're talking about his pashtus. Talking about the nefesh specifically, Olam Shalom nefesh, that the staggering number and vastness, therefore, of the levels of nefesh, the shoydish and the shoydish of the shoydish, the shoydish of the shoydish, and how each result is only a small part of the ilah. If you trace back the cause to the cause to the cause, the very graphic example was grass. You have one muzzle. Every blade of grass has its own muzzle, its own malach. And then so the blade of grass is be'ein haroich to the malach. And the malach, this individual malach itself, is his cause is begashim. As we trace back the grasses, there's the type of grass, of herbage, and then there's grass b'chlal, and then the vroim b'chlal. As you go back to more and more general, unspecified levels of creation, more potential levels, more primary levels, then the vastness of the cause becomes greater and greater. Bearing in mind that every result is only a tiny part of the immediate cause above it, the immediate cause, and certainly the cause of the ilah of the ilah of the ilah. Right? That was in the Kud of Beis, which he's now elaborating upon. Yes, folks. Yeah. So now he brought this medrash that contrasts what emerges in the medrash is the vastness of neshamas l'mayla. But then as they come into Gufim, they are tiny. They're the smallest number of all creatures. Of all creatures. The Alter Rebbe's question was then, why? Why did they wish to do this? And what did he start to answer? This is all quoting from the Alter Rebbe, it could be a direct quote. What was his answer? The answer is in order to look at, if you don't know the answer, look in the Maamar. Tell me if you don't remember. In one word, The answer is in order to, where it's by the number like 20, in the middle of the ois. One word. One word. There's something the Shama does down here that it doesn't do up there. Avoida. Then he went into, then he asked, Avoida, what does Avoida mean? Simple meaning of Avoida. Avoida is opposed to saying it came down to do mitzvahs. If we say it came down to do mitzvahs, we didn't use the word Avoida, we wouldn't have such a question. Why not? The question is only when it's framed. The pasuk says Lovdai. If the pasuk wouldn't say Lovdai, we have no problem. Why not? Because if the neshama came down to do mitzvahs, which means it comes down here to face all the trials and tribulations of life and do mitzvahs, and thereby earn a greater reward l'mayla. That's pretty understandable. What?
But to serve Hashem.
The problem is la'avda. Serve him? Serve him? What's he missing? How could this possibly be? That's the shaila. And mitzvahs is part of avodah. Avodah Hashem. What's avodah Hashem? Earn brownie points, but he gains nor loses surely anything. Yet the pasuk says, "Olavdai." So he went into Arichas. There's two kinds of avodah. What did he say? Very gishmaki in yonim. There's one kind of avodah which is what? Pardon? Yeah, beneath. Let's just spell English. Beneath the
master's dignity to do.
beneath the master. For example, he said, what was the example he gave?
Chopping wood.
Chopping wood and the like. What else did he say? Yeah, he gave examples for it. Yeah, it does. Yeah, then there's an avodah that the master would do, but the servant does it for him. And what's that? With a simple example, he gives two examples, two examples. Business, commerce, that's something that the Adon would do and does. And the other example he gives is also about Yom Yom. It's interesting, so this brings this example of a very elevated work, which is what?
Shining pearls.
To hew or cut pearls. Pearls and precious gems. So that is an avodah, that's what we're up to. So that in the moshel, there is mashlim. There is mashlim the Odin. It's an avodah gmosa. So now 5 lines on the bottom of the end of the ois. Now to translate this l'mayla, yeah? You have the same page number as me? It's page Vav, do you?
Yes. Page 6, yeah.
So for the gmosa, excuse me. Rabbi, this Hashem, sheyesh oifen avodah. They're both avodas. But there's an oifen of avodah, shukemoshol avodah geruva d'chativas eitzim. That's like the lesser avodah of chopping wood. And what is that in avodah? Shezoi avodah the kabbalas oil v'yira bilvad. That's the lower avodah, is a yid accepting yoke of heaven and the awe, the fear of heaven. And this is what the pasuk says, which is what Rabbi started quoting. Moishe says, "Oh, what does he want from you? Ki'im ma Hashem lakecha shel mimaretza." This pasuk concludes Ola Avdai, but this was the pasuk that he's bringing. So what's the Avdai here, which comes behemshech him liyira? That's the first level of yira. Navazeh poel im gam lemayla. So this has this effect l'mayla, namely sheyiyeh inyan sheyarida v'shiflos. This is prayer that Hashem should descend and be invested. This is the in mispar. This is the Eibishter being invested in the huge numbers of nivroim, and therefore the huge numbers, as it were, symbolically numbers, or not symbolically, metaphorically, numbers of greater chayas, bigger ilah, as you trace it back, and a more vast ilah, etc. What's pearl, this whole hamshacha of the Eibishter's investor in Ivriba and Ivroim, or to rephrase that in simple language, for God to be a creator, to get involved in this business of creation, what's the avodah that a Yid does? His hashpala, as it were. He descends from his own space of his own mind and heart, and he serves the Eibishter with what? With Kabbalah soil, Maise b'Poyol, it's hashpala. Get down to the nitty-gritty of the mitzvah, you'd rather ruminate and consider it, and think about it, and feel it. Closeted in his library. That's the natural human state, as a thinker, as a bar seichel, midas. So to get out there and get the job done, so that is in of hashbala. So sure, it concludes the Oishin shel Yerida v'shiflus the gabek dulos atzmis, for the Eibishter to descend and become a creator. That's a descent from his essential greatness that is infinitely beyond creator. Yes, we're clear? Yeah? Ois Dalet. Bira Inyan Beprat Yisyoy said, you know, Yomer Chazal, I've told you, made reference to this many times, the Rebbe's, and there's no language to describe the awesomeness of this beer, the beer Nifla and the Rambam. In the first halachas of Rambam, the deepest inyan of Chassidus, the Rebbe is revealing, the Rambam is saying. He speaks about Eibishter in Megyal Ladas Shuhu Ein Motzoi. From the surface is something to be dismissed as God doesn't exist. And they're going to a whole lot of Achas there. The Rebbe explains that it's a darg of Ein Motzoi. That's the darg of Gedulas Atzmis, beyond Creator, beyond Metzius, beyond the source of Metzius. But if you say that he's only that and didn't descend on the darg of Motzoi, so then nothing else could exist, because Metzius can only exist because of his Hashpala. But it's an aliyah in das. It's such a meiredik. For 800 years, the Rambam has written that the Yalala das. No one even thought to ask the question. This is an aliyah in das to say that ain't a motzei. See, you did in das. God doesn't exist. Terrible. Im Yalala das. Shuhu ain't a motzei is the chastir also. Shuhu ain't a motzei. Ain't a motzei. What's shuhu ain't a motzei? That who the Eibishter's ain't a motzei is beyond creative is there. No, that's. So, the fact is that he descended under the plane of Motzei. It's long ha'aras there, long ha'aras. Not one word from Chassidus, all in Achas and Nigla, the Tifstin Yonim that he's speaking here, and in Ein Beis and Samavav. In Achas of Nigla Rambam. This is what it says in Mashiach Rabbi Misnaga, that he'll speak the deepest in Yonim of Chassidus in Achas of Nigla. It's the Hadden of Tovshin Lamed Hey, first big Hadden. So Bir Ingen Beprat Yesi he made many Haddonim in the subsequent years. They were publishing. The Hindi Omra Chazal, so never Beprat Yesi. So it says in Gemara B'Makim Gdolosei Shom Atamois An V'Senusei. The place of his greatness, you find his humility. Now, why is he quoting this? Because what are we talking about? This. The Eibishter's Hashpala in creation. His Gedula Atzmis, but then there you'll find his Amvesenusai, his Yerida, his desire for Dira B'Tachtoinim. Let's not put words in the mind. Let's continue. I know. So what's he saying? What's the anvesenusoi? That is the spashtus hakdula b'ribu anivroyim, manifesting gdula, which you called before the level of what? Nefesh, and oil mishal nefesh. That's the level of nefesh. The chayis, b'ribu anivroyim, and the huge vast numbers of creation. That's his humility. This is humility and the descent. Given because all of these, this Homa Mala Kalamis, all of Shtalshalus, the Shtalshalus, Ein Arechis Pashtus Agdula, it's incomparable. This is Pashtus Agdula, Lagabi Agdula Ha'atzmis is essential Gdula. So, now to explain this. V'yuven, the hektim ha'yedua is to be understood by first prefacing that which is known. Shekalolos in these havos nivroyim, that the generally creation of this, all the great vast numbers of creations. What's the source of Pchinas? Shmoi Yisborech Belvad. It's only God's name. K'mayme Yisborech Shimcha B'fi Kol Chai. Where do we say that? That's right. The second bracha benching. Huh? It out of 23 tells you in case you. Pirush, so Yisbarech Shimcha, may your name or your name is blessed, Befi Kol Chai, in the mouth of every living creature. Pirush Kol Chai, what does it mean, all living creatures? Well, Derech Masha Kosov, similar to what's conveyed in the Pasuk in Tilim, Uberuach Piv, and by the spirit of his mouth, Kol Tzivom, all their hosts came into being. Shezeh Pchinas HaNefesh Deklolus Habriyah. This is the general. This is post Tzimtzum. This is the ultimate Tzimtzum, which is the nefesh, the life force of all of creation. Away from Kloli. Then, of course, we learned earlier the Tzimtzum, further Tzimtzum, beprotius, all the way down to the individual blade of grass having its hashgacha protis, mazel proti. But it all traces back ilav olol to the very first ilah is eiragvul, the inyan of eiragvul. That there could be, and that there is, the Eibishter manifesting himself in a descriptive way. And what's that descriptive way? A creator. Create what? When? Yet to emerge. But the etzim inyan, that it can be described as a name, creator, that's a hashpala. That's the chayis klali. That's the first yedida. The bashefer. For many that's where it ends. Starts and ends. The Helik Bashefer, which is true, as the Bashefer is a Helik Bashefer. But this is Yedida Vashpala. He's invested in his creation. Vadrab, what's the whole irony? The Dafkin, the Hashpala, and Dafkin, the Tachten, Shebetachten, that's where Atzmusa resides. That's the whole Chiddush at the end. The Dafkin, the Hashpala. Dafkin, the Tachten. So, Helik Bashef is right on. Taka Atzmus is in this gal in the Helik Bashef. Ka akopanim. So let's see the Maimer. Kamaya v'hu. So this whole Indian, the nefesh, the klolos, the Eibishter as a creator, and Pchina Shmoi Yisborech Belvad. It's only a name. So what's this meaning of a name? Mitchil yesh lahavin hamoshul minyan Hashem. So we're calling it Shmoi Yisborech, so it's a moshul. So what does this moshul of a name convey? Vinyan bezed yin yedua b'hafresh shebei in early shefa. So we learned about this many times, yeah? The difference between Eid and Shefa, two ways that the Eibishter expresses himself. One is described, these are metaphoric terms. Just let's have the simple English for our McGill student. Eid means light, and how would you translate Shefa? Anybody?
Substance.
Well, it's implicit in the in Shefa. Shefa is a substance, but the word shefa means something. Doesn't mean, hus means substance. Yesh means substance. Metzias means substance.
A contracted substance.
A direct flow of something, like water is like a shefa.
Flow. That's the word, chef, a flow. Now the flow implies that the substance is flowing. The oil is here. The market of the oil, the moir, the object is here. That he's seen or not is irrelevant to him. He's not invested in the fact that that light emanates from him and he's seen. As he goes on to say. So translation of shafa is flow. So you do Shamitis Hamosh Alef and Yisabas Vachai the Klal Sabriya. What is the true marshal to describe the Eibishter's creative force for creation of Klal Sabriya? Not Ashpa, but rather Minyana Oirdavke. The metaphor to convey that is light. Ki Hamoshal Machayis Handevish Beguf. So the Moshe that we bring, it's a medrash, Ma'akodesh Baruch Hu. Ma neshama memale saguf, kacha Kodesh Baruch Hu memale es ha'olam. So he says, this Moshe of the Chayis and Nefesh in the Guf, ein amiti. It's really not a true model. It's a Moshe that's brought in order to convey his slapshus and tzimtzum. But where it fails, the Moshe is because the actual nefesh itself is invested in the guf and is affected by the guf, cold and hot. The person, the soul, the person is affected by this. His seichel, his midas, his mood is affected by the physical experiences that he has. So that's of ashpa, as it were. That's more the neshama is mashpia. It's flowing into. It's invested in the guf. Mashenkin l'mayla for G'dei to create. B'pchinas hanefesh the kol sabriya. So the divine energy that's invested in creation is not affected. Ksiv ani havaya lo shalisi. I am the havaya means the one who brings existence into being. That's the simple meaning of havaya. Has other meanings too. So he's loishan nisish enim spoil klal mishin and Ivrahim Hashem is not affected at all from the changes that happen in creation. The true marshal would be the rays of the sun. The fact that the light is received in vessels and various vessels and whatever it does has no effect whatsoever on the sun itself. Yes? That's why the Mukabalim, kinoi means, anybody kino, they applied the language. A kinoi is a borrowed term. Label, yeah. They labeled the Netzolim, the divine Netzolim that emerged from the Eibishter as what? B'shem Oiris. Not Ashpa, not Shefa. Now we do speak about Shefa. When do we invoke the union of Shefa most powerfully?
Tell.
The word mamish, the union of Shefa.
Tell. We're not tell with the...
We say the word Shefa there? I don't think so. Svidas Omer, every night. Shefa Rav. Mamish Ashpa, not Oid Mamish Shefa. So whatever, that's a different gilui. It's talking about Ashpa. Akaponim, that's what Avodah does. Avodah does. But creation itself is Oir. So that's why the Mekabolim, so they labeled the Netzolim Elikim Mishem Oiris, Kamoshala Oira Gashmi, like physical light, as we just described. Ukamoiken Ikroim, Roza Dishma Kadisha. They also referred to this as the Zohar, as the secret of his holy name. Why name? This is all to explain what a name is. The Fishe Inyan, that's what they're called. They're called the mysteries of His holy name, the Netzolim. Talking Atzilus, the 10 Sfiris. Fishe Inyan Hashem hu Inyan Echad, the Minyan O'er, for our purposes here, and it's a very strong statement, that they are synonymous. What's the same? A name and O'er. Do you need a name? Name is for somebody else to refer to you. So what is O'er? O'er is His presence being known, seen, appreciated by others. It doesn't affect the Mo'er. So that's what a shame is. You need a shame only for others to get to identify it. Shari Hashem lagabi adam atzma yorak p'chinda ziv nishmasai v'oira. The name for the person is just like the rays of his neshama, and it's light. Shemistabeshes ba'is yeshmoi. That it's in the oir is then invested in these letters. It's all oir, the letters of his name. Liyos nifne l'koyre b'shmoi. He'll call to someone. They call his name. Someone else will call him, and that's his name, so he'll refer to him. It's a tag, it's a label. But the name is incomparable to the person himself. It's merely an identifiable label. Okay, so we'll continue Be'ezrat Hashem. I'm actually leaving out of town today and gone for a while, but please look back next Monday night, Be'ezrat Hashem.